reports are still coming in. A violent riot has broken out on Eros Station. Star Helix security is overwhelmed. We're hearing the word quarantine, containment failure.
A riot. A plague. A tragic, unforeseen outbreak. That's the story they sold you. The story the United Nations and their corporate bedfellows wanted you to believe. It's a clean story, a simple story, and it is a complete and utter lie. Tonight, we open the real file, the one buried so deep it has its own gravity. We are not here to mourn a tragedy. We are here to dissect a crime scene. To understand the single most horrifying event of the early protomolecule era, you must first understand that Eros was not an accident. It was an experiment. Mass murder as a science project. And its architects are still out there. To face what's coming, you must first walk with me through the haunted, silent halls of Eros Station. Before it was a tomb, Eros was alive. A pockmarked rock spinning in the belt, home to 1.5 million souls. It wasn't pretty. It was the system's gutter, a haven for criminals, exiles, and dreamers running from their pasts. The air smelled of recycled sweat and cheap synth noodles. The law was a suggestion, enforced by a corporate security firm that was more interested in collecting fees than keeping peace. But for the Belta Lauda, it was a bastion, a place where the unique cadence of Lang Belta was the lingua franca, where children learned to move in low G before they could walk properly, where the shared hardship of life in the void forged a culture of fierce independence. It was a chaotic, vibrant, desperate ecosystem. And that is precisely why it was chosen. Protogen, the corporation behind this atrocity, did not pick Eros by throwing a dart at a star chart. The choice was methodical, calculated. First, plausible deniability. A violent outbreak on a lawless Belter station? The inners would barely raise an eyebrow. It was a Belter problem. The delay, the confusion, it was all part of the plan. It bought Protogen time. Second, a contained environment. An asteroid station is a bottle. Once you cork it, seal the docks, shut down transit, your experiment is perfectly isolated. A petri dish with a population of over 1 million samples, ready for observation. And third, the most cynical reason of all. The population was deemed expendable. In the cold calculus of men like Protogen's owner, Jules Pierre Mao, and his secret partners high within the UN government, the lives of Belters were a rounding error on a balance sheet. Their deaths wouldn't start a war. They would barely make the news cycle on Earth. Eros wasn't just a target. It was the perfect laboratory, chosen for its chaos, its isolation, and the perceived worthlessness of its people. That is the first truth you must accept. The sheer, calculated inhumanity of the perpetrators. Every great conspiracy has a key, a single thread that, when pulled, unravels the entire tapestry of lies. For Eros, that thread was a person, Juliette Andromeda Mao, daughter of the wealthiest, most ruthless industrialist in the system, Jules Pierre Mao. She was a rebel in the truest sense, a champion slingshot racer who traded a life of luxury for the grit and danger of the belt, an idealist who threw her lot in with the Outer Planets Alliance, the very movement her father's class sought to crush. She was everything her father despised, and then she vanished. The task of finding her fell to a washed-up Belter detective on Ceres, Josephus Miller, a cynical, corrupt cop working for the Earther-run Star Helix Security, a man who had lost his way. The case was meant to be a dead end, a political favor to keep a powerful man happy, but for Miller, it became an obsession. He saw in the ghost of Julie Mao a reflection of something he'd lost in himself, a reason to care. Miller's obsession led him down a dark path. He found Julie's ship, the Scopuli, abandoned. But the real story was on another vessel, the Anubis, a state-of-the-art stealth frigate secretly built by Protogen. My network's data shows Julie and her OPA crew attempted to capture the Anubis, believing it was just another corporate vessel. A fatal miscalculation. They were taken. On board the Anubis, they found the reason for its secrecy. A sample of the Protomolecule taken from Phoebe Station. In the ensuing chaos, the sample was breached. The crew was consumed. All except one. Julie. Already sick, displaying the first signs of infection, she managed to disable the stealth ship's reactor and escape in a small shuttle. A destination was chosen out of desperation. Eros was the closest major port, a place to hide, to find help. She had no idea she was flying directly into the heart of her father's monstrous plan. By a twist of cosmic cruelty, the unwitting catalyst was delivering herself to the laboratory. Miller, arriving on Eros just as the lockdown began, followed her trail to its final, grim conclusion. A cheap flophouse called the Crash Couch, room 22. And there, in the shower, he found her, not just dead, transformed. Her body was the epicenter of a crystalline, glowing blue-green growth that pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light. She was patient zero, but she was more than that. Protogen, having briefly lost their prize when she disabled the Anubis, found to their delight that their sample had been hand-delivered. They didn't just find her body, they harvested it. The refined, weaponized protomolecule that they would unleash upon the station came from her, the daughter of the man who gave the order. This wasn't just a conspiracy. It was a dark, twisted family affair, written in blood across an entire station. With the catalyst secured, Protogen initiated their protocol. It was a masterpiece of methodical, sociopathic efficiency. Phase 1. Quarantine. Using their own private mercenaries and co-opted local security, they sealed every dock, every transit tube, every possible exit. They jammed communications, broadcasting a looping message about a riot to mask their activities. Eros became a tomb, and its inhabitants didn't even know they were already dead. Phase 2. Infection. Operatives in full hazmat gear moved through the station's maintenance tunnels. They introduced the protomolecule into the water reclamation systems, the air recyclers, the food paste dispensers. It was silent, invisible. By the time the first symptoms appeared, it was already everywhere. But the protomolecule, in its natural state, is slow. It works on a biological timescale. Protogen was impatient. They needed to accelerate the process to ensure total biomass saturation for their experiment, which led them to Phase 3, the most grotesque stage of their plan. They had pre-installed high-energy radiation emitters throughout the station's infrastructure, and they turned them on. They bathed the entire population of Eros in lethal doses of hard radiation. Now, this is the critical data point. The radiation didn't kill the protomolecule. It supercharged it. It acted as a catalyst, forcing its growth into overdrive. But it did something else to the human hosts. It burned away their higher brain functions. It destroyed their minds, leaving only the raw, agonized animal instinct, now hijacked by the molecule. It created what the few survivors called vomit zombies, mindless, pain-racked husks driven by a single engineered impulse to spread the infection. They would stumble towards the uninfected and vomit clouds of active aerosolized protomolecule, ensuring a 100% infection rate. This was not an unforeseen side effect. It was an engineered transmission vector. And all the while, during this entire orchestrated holocaust, a Protogen science team led by a man named Dresden watched safely from a hidden monitoring post, Thoth Station. They weren't just murderers. They were researchers, collecting telemetry, analyzing biomass conversion rates, measuring the screams. Eros was their magnum opus, a science project where the test subjects were 1.5 million living souls. They weren't testing a weapon to kill people. They were learning how to unmake them. The system was in chaos. The OPA, led by Fred Johnson, and the crew of a salvaged Martian gunship, the Rocinante, devised a desperate plan. A plan of cosmic billiards. They would use the Nauvoo, the largest ship ever built, as a battering ram to knock Eros out of orbit and send it plunging into the sun. A clean, final solution. Detective Miller, still trapped on the station, was their man on the inside, tasked with planting nuclear failsafes. But the protomolecule had other ideas. Just moments before impact, Eros moved. It dodged. It fired up its own impossible, silent drive and began accelerating towards Earth. It broke the laws of physics as we knew them. Its heat signature vanished from all sensors, making it invisible to guided missiles. The station wasn't a rock anymore. It was a ship, and it was piloted. Trapped aboard this newly sentient monstrosity, with a malfunctioning nuke in his hands, Miller realized his mission had changed. He wasn't there to blow it up. He had to find the pilot. He journeyed into the transformed heart of the station, a hellscape of fused flesh and technology, following a voice only he could hear. He didn't find an engine. He didn't find a monster. He found her, Julie, or what was left of her. A construct of light and memory woven from the protomolecule. It had consumed 1 million minds, a cacophony of consciousness. To function, it needed an organizer, a pilot, and it chose the most complete, most complex consciousness it had absorbed first, Julie Maus. She wasn't evil, she was lost. In her fragmented, simulated mind, she believed she was in her old racing ship, the Razorback, and she was just trying to go home, to Earth. The apocalypse bearing down on humanity was an accident, the result of a dead girl's homesickness. And in that moment, Miller's long, desperate search found its true purpose. He didn't fight her. He didn't try to destroy her. He talked to her. He understood her. He convinced her that crashing into Earth wasn't the way. He guided her, persuading her to change course, to fly to Venus instead. And in a final, heartbreaking act of empathy, he took off his helmet, so she wouldn't have to be alone again. Eros plunged into the toxic atmosphere of Venus, saving Earth. But the incident provided the most terrifying revelation of all. The protomolecule was never a weapon. It's a tool, an ancient biological machine designed not to kill but to build. It didn't want to destroy us, it just wanted our atoms. It saw a station full of people, a pinnacle of human engineering, and thought, good raw materials. The true horror isn't that it hates us, it's that it doesn't even see us at all. This is where the historical record ends, and your file begins. While Miller was chasing Julie's ghost through the heart of a dying station, while the Rocinante was fighting for the soul of the system, where were you? You were there, trapped in the same lockdown, a Pinkwater security mercenary whose shore leave on Eros spiraled into a tour of a slaughterhouse. You are not Holden, you are not Miller. You are not a hero destined to save the system. You are a survivor, a professional caught in a conspiracy that stretches far above your pay grade. Your origin, Earther, Martian, or Belter, colors how you see the universe. But on Eros, you learned that everyone bleeds the same color when the monsters come out. You survived, but the nightmare followed you. My network has acquired fragmented intelligence, a distress call, and corrupted visual data from a deep black Protogen research facility far from the public eye. The data shows a rescue mission. The target? One Eugene Sannon, a retired chief petty officer from the Martian Congressional Republic Navy. A decorated veteran. The first question you should be asking is, what is a loyal Martian soldier doing in a secret Protogen lab? The mission finds him. Too late. He's dead. Next to him, a shattered vial. And his body is covered in the telltale blue crystalline growth of the protomolecule. This is the critical data point. This is where the story goes next. Eros was a success for Protogen, a proof of concept, but it was messy, public. They learned from it. They are now in phase 2 of their project. They are no longer interested in mass infection. They are trying to create something controlled, precise, a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. The first step towards a protomolecule super soldier. The conspiracy did not die when Eros crashed into Venus. It evolved. It metastasized. And this dead Martian proves it has already infected the highest echelons of the Martian Congressional Republic. A rogue faction, terrified of Earth's numbers, willing to make a deal with the devil for an advantage. Your story does not begin with saving the world. It begins with surviving it. With untangling the web of lies that started in a flophouse on Eros and now stretches to the red sands of Mars and beyond. The horrors of the protomolecule are no longer just a news report from a distant asteroid. For you, they're about to get very, very personal. The file is now open. What you do with this information is up to you. But know this: there are more secrets buried in the dark, and my network is always watching. Stay alive. You'll need more intel soon. End transmission.